Morning, everybody, and welcome to our fantastic monthly property mindset slot. So I like to call it Mind Your Property. And what I love about this is totally selfishly, I get to spend a whole hour with Lee Rubeck, who has been completely instrumental in changing my life, and I know the lives of many other people. And he does that through the workings of Bob Procter, which I know we'll jump into. So, morning, Lee. How are you today?
Emma, I'm doing well.
Fantastic.
Looking forward to having a chat here again with you today.
Brilliant. So, we always have a little sort of think about what we might talk about in these discussions. And I mean, everything to do with mindset within the realms that Lee introduced me, taking into consideration, I did work on my mindset for pretty much 25 years and tried everything, but I still wasn't succeeding. So when I found Lee and followed the very formulaic structure that he helps with, I was actually able to see really dramatic differences. And one of the ones that I have most enjoyed, I think, equally rewarding, but I've just really enjoyed it, is something that we call the impression of increase. And this is something that I'd never really heard about before. So let's before we jump into that, for anyone that doesn't know you, Lee, can you give us a quick introduction before we jump into it?
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. I know we're streaming this on a number of different platforms. My name is Lee Rubeck, and I'm a mindset coach. And what it is that I do is I help entrepreneurs remove money blocks and attract clients easily. And I work with entrepreneurs, professionals from all over the world, just like Emma. And these individuals are experiencing quantum leaps in their results because of the ideas that we teach. And I will also add, if I may, Emma, the ideas that we teach and the ideas that we're going to get into here today are not my ideas. I was fortunate enough to be mentored by one of the greatest minds, I believe, a real thought leader, a man by the name of Bob Procter, who passed in February 2022. So I was fortunate to meet him and work with him on a couple of occasions before he passed. Yeah.
Amazing. Can't believe it's been 2 years. That's pretty scary, isn't it? So yeah, let's jump in. And just as a reminder to everybody, if you have any questions, if you're live, obviously jump in. We'll do our best to get to you. If it's not live and you're listening to the recording, then please do pop your questions in anyway, and we will do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. We are streaming on multiple social media platforms, so do feel free to go back and listen. But inherently, probably the best place to get a replay of these will be in YouTube. And then we do break those interviews down as well as we go. So, so please do. And I always forget to say this. I've got to start saying it. If you enjoy our content, please subscribe. Fantastic. Okay. So the impression of increase, Lee, for somebody who has no idea what we're talking about, and in the context of property, which is why we come together today, what is it?
So the impression of increase is simply leaving everyone better off because you've come their way or they've met you. And there's many ways we do this, but it's simply leaving others better off. And if you think of all the stars in, whether you think sport or in your social circles or business, the real stars, it's almost like they've got something magical built into their personality, where whenever anybody comes around them, they're left feeling better. And, when I was growing up, Emma, and I think I might have shared this with you before, when I was growing up, you call it personal magnetism, right? I used to think some people have it and others just don't have it. And you look at certain people and you think, gosh, they're lucky to have that ability. But, having gotten into ideas around mindset and studying this concept that we're going to talk about here today, I believe that anybody listening to this can develop or incorporate this impression of increase into their personality, where anybody that comes around them is automatically left with a feeling of increase.
I'm so sorry. They're on top of the microwave. Sorry about that. Rosabella is is off on holiday. It's Grandad's birthday. We've made him pano raisins, which were, by the way, jolly difficult. And they've just arrived home in the middle of my interview. So apologies, Lee.
This is life. It's life.
And I don't have a lock on this door. But there we go. And I wouldn't want to lock her out anyway. No, absolutely. It is. You're so right when you look at sort of other people. And I think some people walk into the room in a certain way. And I know that since I've taken this into my life, people will often say to me, wow, you've just got so much energy about you, and you're this and you're that. And, you're positive, and inherently, if nothing else, I always walk in with a smile. And whenever I even go for a walk, or there's even a little back lane that I take Rosabella to school in the morning, and there's always these people walking their dogs, and there's this particular couple, they look really lovely, but they don't smile a lot, and I really go out of my way to give them a huge smile and a big wave, because you just don't know how that's going to impact other people. But equally, and I know we'll go into this a little bit more, I hadn't realized how much it would actually impact me. And that was a really big thing, that actually, I know you hear givers gain if you're in the BNI, and give more and you'll get more. But sometimes it doesn't really feel like that necessarily. So especially sometimes with your kids. I've got teenage kids, you give quite a lot and they just take. But the joy and the massive change in the way I view things has changed so much just from this simple activity. I don't know if it's been the same for you, Lee.
Bob used to say, Emma, that this impression of increase, leaving everyone better off, is the number one key to success. Numero uno. There's nothing higher than it. Because we know, right? I mean, not to get too philosophical or religious, but we know in order to receive, you've got to give, right? So if you want someone to smile with you, smile with them. If you want to make more money, give some away. If you want love, be lovable. If whatever you want, put it out first. I mean, this we know is it's a law. Like it's something none of us can escape. And like I said, just now, that it's the number one key to success, and it will change your life, Emma. Just like you've experienced, I've experienced the same. This has changed my life. Like, something as simple as walking into a restaurant, sitting down, looking the waiter square in their eye, acknowledging their name. If you don't know how to pronounce it, ask them how you spell it. I mean, ask them how they pronounce it based on the spelling. And then you repeat it a couple of times, and, just really acknowledging them, looking them square in the eye, maybe touching them on the hand, really making them feel seen. It's a universal need. Like the need to be seen, it's a universal need. So, I mean, and that costs you nothing. Yet most people are so caught up in their own worlds, or just so that we won't even acknowledge the next person. Like, how many people do you know, Emma, walk into a restaurant and treat that waiter, really poorly? I often laugh about it when I see people do that in the restaurant, because I think to myself, gosh, these guys go around the back here, and at the back there, they've got access to your food, so you want to treat these people really well. I don't know, some people just don't. And the thing is, you can see people's attitude towards you shift just by acknowledging their names, just by looking them square in the eye, by treating them kindly. They treat you kindly. I want to tell you a story a bit later on about the impression of increase. I think it's a really powerful one that we can tie in here.
Amazing. Absolutely. And I think what's been key is the awareness of it. So, for instance, I've had a couple of quite bad property things happen to me recently. A deal fell out of bed, and inherently I was missold, but missold to the level of $2,000 on solicitors' fees and things like that. And it's really key to behave in a certain way, but equally it's interesting to see how others respond to that. And the one thing I always kind of bear in mind is that I can only control the way I behave towards these people. And a big thing that you really taught me is to have an expectation and to not allow anyone to treat me below that expectation. I can still be perfectly polite in return, but I have to have that level. And that is certainly something that I didn't have before meeting you, Lee. In fact, I remember you saying quite harshly, well, what on earth are you still doing communicating or whatever it was, interacting with that person who is, treating you so badly. You need to let them know that there's a level that you could be treated. But going through these kind of communications with, varying different people where this particular deal has fallen through, when I finished clearly, succinctly, but very politely and positively what has happened, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. And I'm able just to kind of let it go. I'm going to keep following up. But every time I've kind of put it in a very positive way, rather than me feeling like an absolute victim, which I would have done in the past, it is a part of doing business. Things do go wrong. Was there anything else I could have done? I really looked into this, and actually I really did do pretty much everything I could have done. It was just an unfortunate circumstance. I guess what, other deals have come up since then. So it was probably one of those that just wasn't meant to be. But yeah, I think it was one of those things that's really enabled me to, know that even in that interaction, it's been positive on both sides. And that's been a really, really powerful one to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that experience, you stayed in control of yourself, right? Now we all lose control of ourselves from time to time. I mean, that's a human experience, right? But you stayed in control of yourself there, and you feel better. The situation is the situation. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. But when you stay in control of you and you don't allow that outside condition or circumstance to control you, you feel better. And, you mentioned earlier, Emma, a real miserable couple that you pass by, on your daily walk, and they feel, they look like they don't want to greet or smile. It doesn't matter whether they return that good to you, because when you smile and when you put yourself in that good energy, in that good vibration, you sending that energy out. And that's exactly what you're going to attract back to you in return. Your job is just putting it out. It doesn't matter what the other person on the other end does with it. That's why a simple example, if you think of, being judgmental or looking for the good in other people, gossiping or God's laws is perfect. People who sit and gossip or get caught up in negative conversations all day, every day, they wonder why they get sick or why they depressed. It's because you're moving yourself into that negative vibration. Rather look for the good, try put good out. Like I said, the human experience, we don't get it right all the time. But when you really get a handle on your mindset, you can do it 95% of the time, or most of the time, and even those moments where you do find yourself going down the wrong road, with a proper sort of training around mindset, you can catch yourself early. When you find yourself, like you now, Emma, when you maybe find yourself going down the wrong road, you identify it quickly and you rein it in right then and there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And by the way, that particular couple, they do genuinely smile, not all the time, but they do genuinely smile back, and it's so lovely. It genuinely is really lovely. And actually now, when I walk around, I think especially older people, because we're so used to people walking around like this now, aren't we? And in fairness, I raise my hand. There are moments when I'm as bad as the rest, I would say. But I do love an elderly person who are perhaps sat in their car, or sat on a bench or whatever, is to really make that effort to smile at them. And quite often they're surprised, and I think, well, that's a bit of a shame, actually. But yeah, no, I do like that.